Dear detestable Admiral Vormira, I will be granting you no such report, and I think you will find that any warrior house in our entire civilization would have trouble standing up to 2 Royal Blackwatch in close quarters combat without significant numbers advantage and the element of surprise. An equal battle without surprise. It does not shock me in the slightest of their deaths. It only troubles me that you, a diplomat, dare to resort to any form of violence within these hallowed chambers. If I was not required by law to maintain channel security involving this matter, I would report you immediately to the Council of Elders and the High Prophetess for the shame you have brought upon us. I only pray the humans will see it as a diplomatic slight and not a prelude to war. As for your clearance on such matters, only 4 Lechinyu are permitted the documentation concerning the Terran Marines. We do not wish to shock you, but there is a great deal in fines the humans pay for their existence, as I will describe below. You are the 5th Lechinyu and only 3rd living Lechinyu who has been granted clearance to these documents. If you share them, or your knowledge of their existence with any living soul, it will be considered treason, punishable by death. Yes, this is one of the classifications of top secret, referred to as legacy clearance. Only the High Prophetess and her heir have full access to the legacy archive. I only have access to 26 documents of that archive. You are being granted special clearance temporarily to this one. The attachment and the letter enclosed are eyes only and to be deleted after you read them both. Attached, you will find the statistics, training regiment, equipment specifications, and combat records of the human Marines. Here is my letter of opinion concerning them. Section 6. The Terran Marine Corps. Let me start off by saying that everyone has Marine Corps within their empires, but only the Terrans have them as an entirely separate branch of their military. Yes, all Terran ships have a complement of Marines that are at minimum 10 individuals or 10% of the total crew. It is not excessive, but it is what these Marines consist of. Specialized carrier ships have a Marine complement of nearly 200% of the crew of the vessel. In other words, if the carrier has 400 crew, 18 officers, 122 pilots and 80 engineers, the Marines on board are going to number nearly 1,200. They consist of 3 different factors that make human Marines terrifying. The Orbital Drop Shock Trooper is the main soldier of the Terran Marine Corps, referred to as ODST. It is exactly what it says on the description. I wish I was joking, but the humans are so convinced that firing rocks filled with humans at a planet to invade that planet by firing weapons that shoot more rocks at their enemies is a good idea. What kind of species will find it appropriate to put themselves into a tiny pod that is going to be launched at their enemy in hopes of achieving maximum surprise while not being shot down by anti-air or point defense weapons? Terrans. What kind of species will make a weapon system designed to work in all situations? Terrans. The ODST is traditionally equipped with 3 weapons, a battle rifle, using primitive chemically propelled projectiles to kill their enemies at medium range, a sidearm, usually of the plasma variant, and finally, a shotgun. Let me explain to you the concept of the shotgun. Remember in my previous report, the space battleship Yamato and the Terran Blue Water Navy? The way its guns work at longer ranges would be as with a shotgun. Imagine, if you will, a Terran railgun weapon, but instead of firing one solid slug, it fires anywhere from 4 to 34 smaller projectiles at high speeds, and fires as fast as the user is willing to work an action to load the next projectile. It fires these in a cluster about the size of a Terran fist, and they blow holes in their target the size of a Terran head. The Terrans invented this weapon when they first had gunpowder, and have been using it as an almost unchanged design ever since. No warrior can live through a single hit from a shotgun device without heavy armor. The Terrans have engineered laser shotguns and plasma shotguns, in addition to these alloy cannon-spewing weapons. The Tilwar, the most warlike species in the galaxy, has actually tried to ban their use as a war crime, because they are both too effective and leave vicious wounds that if they do not kill you, you are certainly crippled for life. We almost did ban them as a war crime. The vote only passed within the Galactic Senate by a margin of 8, in favor to not ban shotgun-style weapons. Lastly, the thing that stands above the Terran rank and file are the elite Marines. referred to jokingly by the Terrans as Spartans, after a video game in their early information age, where a super soldier called a Spartan dominated the battlefield and saved their species from alien invaders, but are called something else by the Terrans. Cybernetically augmented, biologically enhanced tactical unit, or cadet units. They are equipped not only with power armor, but trained for decades, and given both genetic enhancements, which the Terrans paid the fines for by the Galactic Council, but also cybernetic enhancements where their flesh would fail. This is a service offered exclusively to war orphans, who have lost their families and have nowhere to go. Further, the orphans are allowed to back out of the program at any time. They begin training at age 13, when a normal Terran would enter their secondary school. They are not allowed to seek combat until age 20. It is, however, not without significant efforts to maintain counseling, understanding, and therapy for these individuals. They are creating soldiers who will be unstoppable by normal human standards. They must ensure the psychological and emotional well-being of these individuals, or risk a servant biting the master. It is very rare, but some do back out of the program. Others wash out and become a part of the regular human forces, or become civilians' military analysts. It is considered a badge of honor just to make it in the program to age 16, much less complete it and become a cadet. The point is this. The Terrans have managed to create a soldier who is sturdy enough to rig enhancing power armor onto. Yes, not just armor that enhances protection and allows carrying heavier weapons, but armor that enhances their speed, reactions, and is sturdy enough to provide a gravitation mass that shields can be applied to. Yes, the Terran super soldier has actual shields. Normally, shields would cut the air off from a soldier so they become useless in that sense. They would also risk recoiling each other away if shield comes into contact with each other. Energy shields tend to bounce from each other with significant force. Energy fields interfere with nervous systems if left unprotected. Their cybernetic augmentations protect them from this interference. Further, shields have other liabilities on the ground. Because soldiers do not have the amount of required gravitation mass, shields often cause them to go flying when they are struck. Despite stopping most of the destructive force, shields still require us to observe the law of physics. That's a equal and opposite reaction. It is why normal unaugmented soldiers and some lighter vehicles do not carry shields. Physics is the limitation, rather than technology. These cadet soldiers stand nearly a full demimicron taller than the human average of 1.8 demimicrons. They also have armor that causes them to reach the weight minimum for shields to be effective. This means that the normal phasers, lasers, disruptors, plasma weapons, and beam weaponry carried by most species must first overload these shields, which only allow a scant 7 Terran seconds of vulnerability to actually damage the soldier underneath, but this is problematic. A Terran, cybernetically enhanced and biologically engineered, standing at 2.9 demimicrons is, however, only around 300 Terran kilograms. Their system of mass measurement is better than ours. Forgive me for using it. However, in their armor, they come to a staggering 1,281 Terran kilograms in mass. Most of that mass is diverted to their armor. They use the shield covering the soles of their feet to create a partial cushion to allow the shield to walk around on their ship without causing damage at high Gs. Image that, using their own shields as an inertial dampener for the weight of these behemoths. I have seen Terran cadet soldiers receive weapons designed to destroy heavily armored assault vehicles and shrug them off to keep fighting. I have honestly never read a report of one of these cadet soldiers dying without the effort of orbital bombardment or repeated direct hits from main battle armored vehicle cannons. Imagine what one of them could do on board a ship moving from room to room with a shotgun. The standard Terran Marine unit is referred to as a gagglefuck due to how insane these individuals must be. But this standard measurement has 12 rather than the standard 11 individuals, plus 1 cadet soldier. First, you have what the Terran Marines refer to as the Butter Bar. This is their leader for their unit and is the Terran rank of Lieutenant, what we would consider a warrior leader rank in our own military. While there are many jokes around the Lieutenant, also referred to as LT in combat. The truth of the matter is, when the guns begin firing, I can assure you, all the nicknames of this Butterbar individual has the absolute most training, and earns all the respect her troops give her during battle, even if they make fun of her out of battle. Next, we have what is referred to as the 11 Bang Bangs. They are called that because their designation is 11B within their military system for numbering their military jobs. They are riflemen, and this makes up the majority of the Marine Squadron. They are equipped with a standard Terran loadout. However, each one is unique in his specialization of skills, ranging from explosives to backup medic. They all have one thing in common though. It is a terrifying thing to refer to them as a common rifleman, to the point the other branches often say they have lost so much sanity from training in combat. They eat children's colouring utensils for drawing children's sketches for their parents at young ages. There are usually 6 11 Bang Bangs within a standard Marine unit. One of them will be equipped with a replacement for his rifle, a medium engagement rifle that packs more punch and has enhanced optics. Another will be equipped with a slower firing sniper weapon. These two are usually the best marksmen within the unit. They work in tandem, providing medium and long range recon, as well as priority targeting dangers to their squad with precision. There are 4 additional individuals within this gagglefuck that require identification. One is the heavy gunner. He is considered by many to be the laziest and biggest unaugmented Terran within this unit. He carries a higher caliber rapid fire weapon that is made to supply suppression. He generally does anything to not have to do any work. It is considered rude to make him do work. However, anytime you open fire or his gaggle fuckmates are under attack, you become the work. I can assure you this individual, when roused to fighting, will not only kill those shooting at him, but somehow dismantle their cover, the cover behind them, and the equipment they brought with them. They are considered the one individual whom you do not wish to rouse to battle. For if you make yourself his work, he will want to quickly make you cease existing and has a fully automatic, nearly 700 round per minute railgun to do it. Of which I have seen the requirements of these individuals is to put out 500 rounds per minute and get 81% of them on target. Our own heavy gunners only require an accuracy rating of 65% to pass their qualification. Further, they do not have a weapon that fires railgun shots, but rather we use plasma darts, that do significantly less damage to material and more to biological function. I can assure you, the Terran weapon is better but much harder to use and, logistically, more difficult to supply. Now, the next individual in the gagglefuck is referred to as the heavy weapon unit. Not to be confused with the heavy gunner. This individual carries anti-armor weapons, anti-bunker weapons, and enough explosives that he might actually be able to erase a full-size naval destroyer from existence. I need you to understand. That is erase from existence. Not destroy in the sense of rendering combat ineffective or forcing you to abandon ship. I mean atomization of a full-size destroyer, the largest escort class ship in a fleet. He literally has lost his mind to do this job within the Terran Marines, but he is an engineer who is perfectly happy to unleash everything upon his foes that explodes and use those explosives for unique missions. He has an ingenuity that is unique to the Terran explosives experts. I have seen one create a dwelling inside a reinforced cave structure that was stable enough to withstand orbital bombardment for his gaggle fuckmates in mere moments with explosives. Another made a bridge out of an ancient artifact column, and the only thing he had to say when he did it was, and I quote, "Look, I made it a bridge. It took like 10 seconds. He was also from a place called France, where I am informed they occasionally revolt against their government to just remind them that they can and will overthrow the government if they get too corrupt. Not just a casual revolt either. It involves mass protests in the streets, setting things on fire, and some device used for beheading called a guillotine. Oh, and people like this, who will turn a 10-century-old artifact into a bridge in 10 seconds because it was convenient. There are 2 more individuals within a gagglefuck. The first one being the TACUP, which I do not care to explain what that acronym means. Instead, I will refer to him as the spotter for putting warheads on foreheads. His job is multifaceted. He must, first and foremost, translate actions from the Butterbar and his 11 Bang Bangs into actual tactically useful speech, and call in air support, orbital bombardment, or ground artillery support. So in a sense, he has two jobs. One to use math and geographical navigation knowledge to determine how much firepower they need and where they need it. These individuals are often responsible for deleting from existence entire geographical features. I have seen personally an individual decide that a mountain is a problem for their logistical issues. Then he decided, on his own at the rank of sergeant, our equivalent of a warrior veteran, to remove the mountain from the equation. No, I'm not joking. It took 4 hours for the dust to settle. His other job is to simply make sure the rest of the world can understand the various things that come out of the gagglefucks' mouths. This ranges from words like foobar, bohika, snafu, susfu, steal, and other terms that equate to something along the lines of situation normal, things are various degrees of bad. The last individual is the one person in the entire gagglefuck you do not wish to shoot at or hurt in any way, shape, or form. He is the medic, referred to as Doc by the rest of the gagglefuck. I have personally seen entire units of a gagglefuck charge the great four Demimicron tall six-armed beasts, known as Helions, without a care for their lives. All because their Doc had to take cover. Notice he didn't actually even get hit. Just because someone shot at him. They fixed bayonets, yes, they still put knives on the ends of their guns, and charged out into close quarters against the largest, fiercest species to be in close quarters within the galaxy. A Helion, who can pick up a lightly armoured vehicle and hurl it over 100 Demimicrons, as if the effort were a daily routine in its life. They charged such a fire team of creatures into close quarters combat. And they won. Imagine if you actually hit, wounded, or killed Doc. I imagine that no gagglefuck in the entire galaxy would not stop hunting you until such a time as they managed to slay you, your family, all their kin, and your pet. Now that I have explained the Terran Marine Corps, allow me to explain the legend of one Terran Marine, Chesty Puller. You hear about Kilroy in the Terran army, but Chesty Puller is a different creature. Where the army described in Part 1 will leave us scrawling Kilroy was here onto a structure they passed through, Chesty Puller is a list of impossible accomplishments attributed to various Terran Marines over the centuries. One example, Chesty Puller suplexed a tank onto a landmine to deal with it. A tank being what Terrans refer to as a heavily armoured, high-caliber weapon mobile vehicle. I rather like the short name. But the point here is this. They claim a Marine threw a tank onto a landmine. Or another example of Chesty Puller is a Marine who finished all the Marine physical daily training, referred to as PT by the Terrans, in less than 10 minutes. Running the 5 Terran kilometers for a human takes longer than 10 minutes and is required every day by the Marine units, not to mention the other exercises. However, I have witnessed a few moments personally that have become Chesty Puller inflated legends, and others that are entirely true. I personally do not know which Chesty Puller incidents are true and which ones are false. What I do know is that I personally do not wish to find out, especially when their guns are pointed in my direction. I have not embellished any of my experiences with the Terran military, nor any of their general capabilities. I have included in all these reports hard statistics, but I understand that those statistics need more real grounded terms for you to understand. This is where I give my conclusion. If we are going to war with the Terrans, I cannot stay in good faith, despite the fact that of our superior energy weapons, warrior lodges that have served for generations to create nothing but warriors, superior shield technology, and faster ships, I, Admiral of the Fleet to the Lechinu Haven, Flakar, who has served in our fleet for over hundreds of galactic rotations. I have served in 518 active engagements, 16 actual wars, 2 first contact indecent wars, and 1 exogalactic threat. I will not face the Terrans. Not because I am scared of them, but because I understand that such a battle would be total idiocy and futility on our part. I will personally give my resignation the day before the war begins and walk away from the military to retire, should you decide to go to war in protest after reading this report. I will also publicly publish this report to the press, save for Section 6, just to show all our people I was right when the dust has settled before the first shot is even fired. I am not stupid enough to face an enemy who will do suicidal charges, declare that fusion nuclear weapons are merely an inconvenience, while using anti-bunker satchel charges for grenades, actually launch an ocean-based battleship into space, allows war orphans to see lifelong military service as a revenge for their fallen parents, and then augment them with genetics, cybernetics, and power armor, all while they literally hurl rocks at you and win. And that is the entirety of my personal commentary, to go with the report on the Terran military. Good day, Ambassador. Knowing you, I will go ahead and prepare my resignation and letters of condolences to the millions of our warriors and their lodges, who I expect will be deceased by the end of it. End Section 6, the Terran Marine Corps. End Diplomatic Intelligence Report Commentary upon the Terran Military. Sincerely, Admiral of the Fleet, Vlakar. Admiral of the Fleet from circa 2402 to 2504. Currently, Vlakar is retired and living on Luna, in the Sol system post-Terran Lechenu War, which ended in a Terran victory as he predicted. He is raising the late Rear Admiral Hirohito's grandchildren, Yujun and Vlakar Rin. He refused further comment after submitting his resignation and this report. There was a pause in the room as a Lechetu Admiral, Terran General, and Vixtian Guard Chief stood in the room, listening to the entire report made by the aide. Dozens of other species had all sent a representative to the military council about what threat they now faced. There was a long pause among them, making each leader shift as the three at the center hologram tried to determine what to do and what to say first. What of Ambassador Volmira? General Nichols chimed in, her voice breaking the unnatural silence. Tried and executed by her people for starting a war knowing they were going to lose. A form of treason in Lechetu society. Rel Clear assured them. Is he the one who we truly need? The Vixtian asked, each word drawn out with a grace that only their race could achieve. He's the only one, including our own analysts, who predicted a Terran victory in the war. The human admiral spoke with a degree of humility not characteristic for his rank. Yes, he is. The Lechetu resounded with a nod to each of them. She was the first Lechetu admiral of the fleet to be a female, since the Terrans taught a thing or two about females in war. The three looked at each other and realized they would all three be making a trip to Luna very shortly. The resounding agreement among the room seemed rather unanimous.